In the sprawling digital metropolis of the 21st century, a new frontier was being built. It wasn't made of steel and glass, but of pure, unadulterated code. They called it Ethereum, the world computer, a revolutionary platform promising a decentralized future. An internet of value where trust wasn't placed in banks or governments, but in the immutable certainty of mathematics. At the heart of this brave new world, an audacious experiment was about to unfold, one that would attract millions in investment and capture the imagination of a generation. But within the elegant lines of its architecture, a fatal flaw lay dormant. A digital time bomb, waiting for the right person to light the fuse. This is the story of how a single exploit nearly destroyed Ethereum before it even truly began. Story of idealism, betrayal, and a heist so profound it would forever split the crypto world in two. The year was 2016. The air was thick with techno-optimism. Ethereum, the brainchild of the brilliant young programmer Vitalik Buterin, had launched less than a year prior, but its promise was already echoing through the burgeoning crypto community. It wasn't just another digital currency like Bitcoin. It was a platform to build unstoppable applications, decentralized apps, or dApps, that could run without any central authority. And the most ambitious dApp of all was about to be born, the DAO. It stood for Decentralized Autonomous Organization, a name as futuristic as its concept. Imagine a venture capital fund with no CEO, no board of directors, no physical headquarters. Instead, it was governed entirely by smart contracts, self-executing code, living on the Ethereum blockchain. Anyone who bought DAO tokens could vote on which projects to fund, creating a truly democratic, leaderless investment powerhouse. The idea was electric. It was the ultimate expression of the crypto ethos. Power to the people, governed by logic, not by the whims of a powerful few. The crowd sale for the DAO was a staggering success. In just 28 days, it raised over $150 million worth of Ether, the native currency of Ethereum. At the time, this represented a breathtaking 14% of all ETH in circulation. Thousands of investors, from seasoned crypto veterans to curious newcomers, poured their money in, buying a piece of this revolutionary dream. The DAO became the largest crowdfunding campaign in history, a gleaming testament to the power of this new technology. But as the digital coffers swelled, it also became a target, a very, very big target. In the shadowy corners of the internet, someone was watching. Someone was poring over the 1,200 lines of code that formed the foundation of the DAO, not with the eyes of an investor, but with the predatory gaze of a hunter. They found it, a subtle, elegant, and catastrophic vulnerability. It was a flaw known as a recursive call exploit. In simple terms, the smart contract's code had a loophole. A user could request to withdraw their funds. Before the contract could update their balance to zero, they could make the same request again and again and again within the same transaction. It was like an ATM that would spit out cash repeatedly, but only deduct the fee for the first withdrawal from your account. The attacker could drain the fund, slice by slice, without the system ever catching up. The trap was set. On June 17, 2016, the attack began. As the world slept, an anonymous entity triggered the exploit. The process was slow, methodical, and chillingly effective. Ether began to bleed from the DAO's main account into a child's DAO controlled by the attacker. At first, the outflows were just a trickle, but they soon became a torrent. 3.6 million ETH worth, around $50 million at the time, was siphoned away. The community watched in horror, their dream turning into a real-time nightmare played out on the public ledger. The price of ETH plummeted by over 50% as panic swept the market. The largest crowdfunding project in history was being publicly disemboweled. And because of the rules of the smart contract, the stolen funds were locked in the child DAO for 28 days before the attacker could fully access them. The clock was ticking. What happened next was a crisis of philosophy that would rock the very foundations of the blockchain world. The community was fractured, descending into a bitter civil war of ideas. On one side were the pragmatists. They argued that the stolen funds had to be returned. This was an obvious theft, a catastrophic failure that threatened the entire Ethereum ecosystem. Letting the hacker get away with it would be a death blow to investor confidence. Their solution was radical. A hard fork, This meant turning back the clock, rewriting the history of the Ethereum blockchain to a point just before the hack occurred, effectively erasing the theft from existence and returning the money to the original investors. It was a way to save the DAO and protect the people who had believed in the project. On the other side were the purists, the idealists, who rallied under a powerful, almost religious mantra: code is law. They argued that the entire point of the blockchain was its immutability. The chain was supposed to be a permanent, unchangeable record of truth. The hacker, they contended, hadn't broken any real-world laws. They had simply used the rules of the smart contract as they were written. The code was flawed, but the code was the law. To intervene to manually reverse the transaction would be to betray the core principle of a decentralized system. It would prove that Ethereum wasn't truly decentralized after all, that a group of influential developers could change the rules whenever it suited them. It would set a dangerous precedent. Who decides what is a theft and what is a clever use of mechanics? If they could reverse this, what couldn't they reverse? The debate raged on forums and chat rooms and across social media. It was a battle for the soul of Ethereum. Vitalik Buterin and the core developers, seeing the existential threat to their creation, ultimately sided with the hard fork. They argued that the intent of the code was clear, and the exploit was a violation of that intent. A vote was held among the Ethereum stakeholders, and the proposal to hard fork passed with overwhelming support. The fork was executed. The timeline was reset, the theft undone, and the stolen ETH was made available for investors to reclaim. But this solution came at a cost. The minority who had fiercely opposed the intervention refused to accept the new chain. They continued to support and validate the original, unaltered blockchain, the one where the hack had still happened and the funds remained stolen. In that moment of division, one blockchain became two. The new forked chain, supported by the majority and the Ethereum Foundation, retained the name Ethereum ETH. The original unaltered chain, championed by the code is law purists, survived and became known as Ethereum Classic, etc. The schism was complete. The DAO, the grand experiment that had started it all, was dead. But from its ashes, to rival platforms had risen, each carrying a different philosophical legacy of the event that created them. Ethereum chose pragmatism and community consensus over absolute immutability. Ethereum Classic chose to uphold the sanctity of the original code no matter how harsh the consequences. Years later, the mystery of the attacker's identity remains a subject of intense speculation and investigative work. While no definitive proof has ever been publicly presented, blockchain analytics and journalistic investigations have pointed toward a few potential suspects. Some early theories focused on individuals within the crypto community who had publicly pointed out vulnerabilities in the DAO's code before the attack. But more recent compelling analysis has drawn a possible connection to a far more sinister entity, the Lazarus Group. This notorious, state-sponsored hacking collective, widely believed to be operated by North Korea, is known for orchestrating massive cyber heists to fund the isolated regime. Sophisticated on-chain tracking has shown that the stolen DAO funds, after years of dormancy, began to move through complex chains of mixers and exchanges tools used to launder and obscure the origin of cryptocurrency. The patterns of these movements bear a striking resemblance to the methods used by Lazarus in other high-profile crypto attacks. This potential link transforms the narrative from a simple story of a clever coder exploiting a loophole to an act of international cyber warfare. It raises the chilling possibility that the first great crisis in Ethereum's history wasn't just about greed. It was part of a state-sponsored campaign to destabilize and plunder the emerging world of digital finance. The DAO hack serves as a brutal lesson in the clash between technology and ethics. When you build a system where code is the ultimate arbiter, who makes the law when that code is turned against its creators? The DAO was built on the utopian belief that code could replace the flawed, messy systems of human trust and governance. But the hack proved that code is written by humans, and humans are fallible. The risk management was non-existent. A project holding 14% of the entire network supply was rushed to launch with unaudited code containing a known class of vulnerability. The psychology behind the initial frenzy was pure FOMO, fear of missing out. Investors, captivated by the revolutionary promise, overlooked the glaring risks, pouring money into a complex and unproven financial vehicle. The fallout forced the entire industry to mature. It led to the development of better smart contract auditing standards, like the ERC-20 token standard, and a greater emphasis on security and testing. It taught a painful but necessary lesson. In a decentralized world, the ultimate responsibility for security and due diligence lies with the individual. You can't just trust the code. You have to scrutinize it, test it, and understand its limitations. The DAO hack was Ethereum's trial by fire. It was a near-death experience that forced a young, idealistic community to confront the harsh realities of security, governance, and human nature. It left a permanent scar on the blockchain, a ghost in the machine that serves as a constant reminder that in the quest to build a new world, the old world dangers of theft, greed, and betrayal are never far behind.